me today on the hot dish is a great friend, Senator Debbie Stabenow, who in the United States Congress has forgotten more about agriculture than most people ever knew. And I have been watching with amazement at the work that you've been able to do with Growing Climate Solutions Act and the fact that you found a bipartisan path forward for all things climate legislation. And so, if you could just give us a little background on how that came together, Senator, we'd really appreciate it.
Well, Heidi, first let me say it's wonderful to be with you, and I'll tell you what, I miss you on the Agriculture Committee and all of your. I'll talk about somebody who knows what they're talking about about rural America and agriculture. Your voice has been and continues to be really, really important. So thank you for that. And as you know, and of course, I grew up in a northern Michigan small town. Rural community, and as you know, what we are seeing that certainly relates to what's happening on the climate crisis is that farmers who are, are and have been the front line in terms of protecting our water and our land. I mean, the first environmentalists. I mean, they have an awful lot at stake, at preserving our land and water and air, and now they are bearing the brunt of the climate crisis. And just with the weather fluctuations, I know in Michigan, we literally, beginning of the summer, huge droughts, and then it went to flooding, and we have an awful lot of fruits and vegetables and our cherry orchards and apples and peaches and so on. It warms up too early, the buds come out on the trees, then it freezes again and it kills everything. And so, they're at the front of the spear here. And so I've, over the years, more and more heard from farmers saying, look, we get it. We know that there's a climate crisis. We get what's happening in the weather, but we're not sure what our role should be, and to be able to help with this. And first I tell them, already the efforts that you do on conservation are already helping to lead on keeping carbon in the ground. And when we're planting trees, we're keeping it in the trees. And so the whole effort has been, how do we support them through voluntary producer-led efforts to do more of what they know how to do and want to do. And there's new technology, new research going on. We know with, for instance, our dairy farmers and what they can do with methane digesters and, managing manure in a way where you can actually create your own electricity, but keep the methane out of the air, which is even more dangerous than carbon when it comes to polluting the atmosphere. So, farmers want to be involved.
Yeah, and Senator, this is so weird because if you and I had sat down 8 years ago, as we did, and said, can we get, ag from all levels, whether it is the small family farmer or the large ag producers, to actually come together on a bill, bipartisan bill, I would not have given it any chance. But I never count you out in any way. And so I want to say how amazing it is at this point in time in our history that where everything is so partisan that you have been able to broker this deal. And so can you tell our listeners a little bit about how your Climate Solutions Act would work for producers and work for the climate?
Absolutely. And, it's always, there are a lot of people involved in this, and I appreciate your leadership efforts in the ag community and the production, all the commodity groups and so on. But I have to give a shout out to Senator Mike Braun, who is my Republican partner in this. He's from Indiana. I'm from Michigan. We get the Midwest and understand what's happening actually in the Great Lakes all around us. But so Mike and I were able to come together and then build over time. It wasn't easy in the beginning, but build over time the coalition that we needed. And it's because we started with this basic premise. Look, we're not talking about regulations. We're talking about supporting farmers to do more of what they already do and to work with them to give them information and research and technology that will help them be able to sequester more carbon. We call it climate smart agriculture and research, and so much of what we're talking about are the kinds of programs that are already being done, but doing more cover crops, doing more buffer strips, doing more planting of trees, doing, helping create financial opportunities around digesters and other things, helping through REAP for farmers to put solar and wind on the farm and use other kinds of technologies. And so we basically got this done by saying, look, we want to set up a pathway through an agency you trust, the USDA, not EPA, USDA, a voluntary effort. We're going to have an advisory committee primarily made up of producers. And then we want to create a system where farmers may wish to continue to do more around climate smart conservation, which is great. But if they want to take the next step and say, I want to measure the new things I'm doing and how much carbon I'm getting, out of the atmosphere, keeping it in the ground. And I want people with expertise that can tell me that I can count on the way we're going to measure it, and that they can sort of give us the good seal of approval here from the USDA that in fact they are creating more carbon sequestration, and then give them an opportunity to go in the private market and to sell carbon credits and actually have a revenue stream, make money. And we want to do this in a way where there's not a middleman from Wall Street. It's all about how do we write it for farmers and foresters and help them create additional revenue from doing the right thing, but have it with integrity, with experts, that are going to be able to tell them how it should be done, or measure it in a way so that they know they can count on the results. So that's what we're talking about.
As you know, Debbie, Saxby Chambliss, former senator from Georgia, and I are chairing an effort that is been just absolutely exciting for me, and I think exciting for Saxby. And so we're chairing this effort from the Bipartisan Policy Center to look at natural carbon solutions. And a lot of what we're doing is trying to build on the work that you've done. And yesterday we had a task force meeting, and we had a long conversation about carbon markets and making sure these carbon markets are available to our producers, because there's going to be some costs that'll be associated with changing certain farming practices, whether it's digesters or where it's additional trees or putting up solar panels. But one of the things that I think we have to get right is the integrity. And I think it's so exciting that you have looked to USDA to build that integrity so that there is no question when Amazon or Microsoft wants to buy these credits, that the credits are legitimate. But one thing I would say is I think we're a ways away from doing that. And how can we get USDA to really do an important moonshot on the work that they're doing to build integrity around these carbon credits?
Well, you're right that this is going to be a process, right? A building process to get the expertise, have farmers also get the information they need, feel comfortable, get the markets to actually work for farmers and foresters. But the first step right now is that as we are looking at major climate and infrastructure legislation, I'm leading the effort to have a major financial investment put into this bill to help agriculture, to help really build up the current kinds of conservation programs we do now, whether it's CRP or CSP or EQIP, all those acronyms that we know so well, or whether it is how to finance a new methane digester, how to support getting, paying for putting this expertise together at USDA that can help farmers be able to sell carbon credits. So my goal, and we're on a very good track, if we can get this Build Back Better effort done that the president's proposed, I am leading the effort to get a substantial investment to help farmers to be able to move forward in the climate space. And one of the things that I'm stressing as well is that, farmers and foresters can be such a big part of the solution. This sector of the economy is about 10% of the pollution, about 10% of the carbon pollution. But we've modeled and shown, working with the National Academies of Science and others, that agriculture and forestry can actually be carbon negative, meaning they can pull more out of the atmosphere, pull more carbon out and other greenhouse gases than they actually put in, and can actually lead as a sector. And the National Academy of Sciences has estimated that the work that we're talking about with agriculture and forestry can offset the emissions from about 108 million cars a year. Now, I come from Michigan. We're a car state. I want you to buy a vehicle, but that's a lot of vehicles. And so, so land-based solutions, nature-based solutions, whatever we want to call them, I think are much more a part of the solution than oftentimes are given credit for.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to raise with you, Senator, is the fact that, when I was there, you remember we did the expansion of the 45Q tax credits. And a lot of the farmers and producers that I talked to are wondering, where that works for industrial sequestration and carbon capture and utilization, how can we make that tax credit, work for our producers as well?
Yes, on the tax side, yeah, as you know, I'm a member of the finance committee, and we've got to be looking at all of that as we're looking at the tax credits. And by the way, biofuels as well, and and what we need to be doing, overall on this. But the tax piece is the piece that we're looking at as well.
Well, we're certainly hopeful that 45Q can be expanded in ways that the president has talked about doing, but also that we could think about how this could work for our ranchers and our producers. And, in tough years, they don't have a tax liability, so transferability would be really valuable. Another way for them to capture these tax credits and basically provide a stream of revenue as they are being asked to be part of the climate solution. So,
I mean, we've got to essentially make sure that if we're using a tax code, it's usable in a year, that the benefit is received even in a year where it's a tough year, right, for producers, and that they don't have a tax liability. So that's very much a part of the discussion.
well, I'm just really excited about the work that you're doing, Senator, but I wouldn't be a very good questioner if I didn't ask about the next farm bill and how you guys are thinking about that and how the progress is going.
Oh my goodness, Heidi, we're already talking, we are already looking at the farm bill, even though it is, technically the due date is 2023. But what I think is important to do now, and we'll be doing more oversight hearings later in the year, is to really be listening to farmers, listening to folks that are using the commodity programs and crop insurance and conservation and energy programs and so on. How does it work? What can we do better? Maybe there's something that we put in that's actually not working and we shouldn't have it in. But, how do we actually streamline, make things work better for producers? I remember 2014 when I last chaired the committee, and we put in a new regional conservation program, regional partnership program, and to really work with farmers and others that wanted, conservation folks and others that wanted to do large scale projects. And we found, it's a wonderful idea. It's working well now. But, about halfway through the first farm bill, we did some hearings and found out, well, it's too much bureaucracy, taking too long to get decisions made. We needed to tighten it up. So we did in 2018. We made it work a whole lot better. And that's the kind of thing that we want to do. I want to make sure that it really makes sense, not just on paper, because it doesn't count on paper. It's how it really works for somebody who's out on the front lines every day, giving us the safest, most abundant, affordable food supply in the world, which we need to be thanking them for every day.
And for us, we have fought so long and hard to make sure that rural America isn't left behind, in terms of economic development, and those rural development programs and rural broadband, so critical and so important to find out what additional things could work for rural communities as well. And I know you always have your eye out for advanced manufacturing and how can we use our ag products in a broader way. Miss Debbie doesn't hardly give a speech on advanced manufacturing without talking about eating car seats from soybeans.
Every Ford vehicle you buy has a Lear seat that is using soy-based foam. So you're right. I mean, when we did the Farm Bill in 2014, I put in this initiative called "Grow It Here, Make It Here," and it's all about using corn byproducts, using soy byproducts. There's so much that we can do, and our communities need that for jobs, as you know. I mean, we need to be really looking at every way we can to leverage our agriculture production, and from fuels to bio-based manufacturing, to processing. I mean, all of it. And as you said, I mean, high-speed internet is critical, and it's one of the things that I'm pleased we've been able to come together around in a bipartisan infrastructure bill, because we are woefully inadequate in too many places in terms of connecting folks with high-speed internet.
Well, I am so grateful that you've been able to join us, and I know, all of rural America is so grateful for your leadership. I think there's a lot of people you read a lot about in Washington D.C., and then there's the people who make the trains run on time and actually get the job done. And Debbie, during my time, I'm not ashamed to say I think you're among the top 3 legislators that I worked with, because you knew how to get stuff done. And I am so grateful you're using those talents for rural America and for our ag producers.
Well, thank you so much, Heidi. And I miss you. I'd love to have you back as a senior leader on our agriculture committee. But I know you're doing wonderful work where you are now. And there's just, we've got a lot of challenges, but we've got a lot of opportunity. And with if we do things right, if we value rural communities and lift up and partner with our farmers and ranchers and foresters, we can get a lot done.
Beyond having redheads in common, we are boldly optimistic about rural America and what we can do with the right amount of investment and the creative thinking that is already out there. But the leadership in Washington, that's what you're providing, and it's an essential part of that formula. So I'm so grateful and so happy to call you my friend, and I hope we get together soon.